We begin the news with insecurity, where U.S. Congressman Scott Perry has accused U.S. aid agency, United States Agency for Internal Development, of funding terrorist organizations, including Boko Haram. Now, Perry, a Republican representing Pennsylvania, made the claim during the inaugural hearing of the subcommittee on delivering on government efficiency on Thursday. Perry further cited U.S. aid's reported funding of $136 million for building 120 schools in Pakistan, alleging that there was zero evidence of the school's construction. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has previously called for the closure of U.S. aid, accusing the agency of corruption in a post on his Truth Social platform. The move is part of Trump's drive to shrink the U.S. government. Now, here are a few things to note about the agency. USAID is the main U.S. agency that provides foreign aid. Its work includes humanitarian aid, economic development, and education. It was established by President John F. Kennedy in 1961 to combine several foreign aid programs and organizations. USAID has missions in over 100 countries, mainly in Africa, Asia, Latin America, the Middle East, and Eastern Europe. Now, for more on this, I'm joined by Ejike Okpa. He's a global affairs analyst, and he joins us from Texas, USA. Thank you so much for joining us on the news, Ejike.
Thank you for having me.
Now, speak to us on how the news of this allegation came to you. And, you can also tell us if you feel the chances of this particular allegation is true.
We are glad that these things are coming out. And we, the American taxpayers, want to know, just like any reasonable person, you want to know how your money is spent. The government doesn't make money. It's the people that make money, and through taxes and some other legislative powers they have, they collect those. And so, it would be good for whether you're in a developed country or underdeveloped or developing one, you want to know how your government is spending your money. And so this Trump administration under DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, we are, coming to terms and seeing these things that our agencies are doing. We don't need a lot of the American agencies that are doing things overseas. We need to trim those facts. We need to be able to account for the money and make sure, yes, of course, there are needs to support humanitarian things, but when, that purpose is turned into something. I think, for instance, in this allegation about Boko Haram, if Tinubu is very serious, he should investigate that and see whether, the former army chiefs and generals have benefited from this, and he should expose them. That's how you build credibility in a country. You can't just sit there and be given handouts, and then they turn around, your country is falling apart, and then you can't do anything. Every country needs to work hard to secure domestic, public safety and have integrity and respect. It doesn't matter how small you are, how big. Every president owes that to their country before they go outside. So, I'm happy that the USAID, I've never liked them, even when I was a student in Nigeria and I read about what they do, and I come to America and get plugged into the political system. I am glad that, like they say, the wind is blowing hard on the chicken, and we see that a whole lot of things covered by the feather is not pretty. We need to shut it down, because, they are a nuisance to us. And Americans are very generous people, but when it turns into abuse, then it makes us look bad that we are not even following our own responsibility. And this is one thing you have to know. When USAID say they're giving you $1, 70% of that money stays with American consultants. So the 30% is what goes to the recipient country. So this is how a lot of these people get, get rich off Americans. And now that is why a lot of Democrats and some Republicans are fighting, is because they are being exposed. They are being exposed. So it's not just the recipient countries, it's also some Americans who have benefited from this. If you look at what happened in Haiti at the time, Haiti had the earthquake, they gave so much money. It was Clinton Foundation that received that. Haiti hasn't recovered from that.
Absolutely.
So there's so many things that a lot of people need to be angry angered by because, it's making your country look bad and it's making America, look bad. And I think it's a good thing. A good thing is happening.
Well, all right, AGK, please, if you don't mind, can you just stay with us? We just want to, take a look at a particular video. Please just stay with us.
Thank you.
Who gets some of that money? Does that name ring a bell to anybody in the room? Because your money, $697 million annually, plus the shipments of cash funds madrasas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, ISIS Khorasan, terrorist training camps. That's what it's funding. If you think that the program under Operation Enduring Sentinel entitled Women's Scholarship Endowment, which receives $60 million annually, or the Young Women Lead, which gets about $5 million annually, is going to women who, by the way, if you read the Inspector General's report, is telling you that the Taliban does not allow women to speak in public. Yet somehow you're believing, and American people are supposed to believe, that this money is going for the betterment of the women in Afghanistan. It is not. You are funding terrorism, and it's coming through USAID. And it's not just Afghanistan, because Pakistan's right next door. USAID spent $840 million in the last 20 years on Pakistan's education-related program. It includes $136 million to build 120 schools, of which there is zero evidence that any of them were built. Why would there be any evidence? The Inspector General can't get in to see them. But you know what? We doubled down and spent $20 million from USAID to create educational television programs for children unable to attend the physical school. Yeah, they can't attend it because it doesn't exist. You paid for it. Somebody else got the money. You are paying for terrorism. This has got to end. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Well, Ejike, listening to what the congressman has actually said, this isn't the first time that aid agencies are being accused of complicity when it comes to crimes in Africa, but coming from a U.S. congressman who is a combat veteran. Now, would you say that it's high time African nations, scrutinize the interventions of agencies rather than, running towards it?
Yes, yes, and yes. Like I said earlier in the opening, segment, I want, and I hope that President Tinubu would take the bull by the horn and order an audit on every non-governmental agency in Nigeria that for the past 20 years, they will go back to 1999, that has received American money, and ask them to give a report on what that money went for. That's what is going to give him credibility. That's what's going to make him stand up and say, we are no longer going to be victims of AIDS that is causing trouble in our own country. If he says that, then the world will embrace him. But we can't just sit down. There are two things you want to do if you want to develop your country, and that is you want to seek investment and you want to seek partnership. In the dictionary of economics, two words don't exist: help and give. When people are giving you something, they have no expectation. They basically think it can perform. So walk away from those things. If there are certain specific things in your country you need, you go out there and recruit and woo and ask for investment and partnership. Because in an investment situation, there's a recognition of a reward and return and risk. And then partnership as a recognition of ability to perform. Africans should be looking for partners and investors and not aid. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the brain of Africans. A whole bunch of us have gone to the same school. These people that are giving you aids have been to, and they have not outperformed us in classroom. So how is it that when they give us that degree, we go home and we submit to be subdued? So again, it's up to Africa. They are the highest number of countries in a continent. 54 of them, they look like little boys. They go to UN and they beg. They go to World Bank and they beg. They go to WTO, they beg. Why? It's about time they change the perception of themselves. If not, they become the ridicule and the laughingstock of the world.
Okay. Now, Ejike, just before we let you go, assuming without conceding that the allegation is true, how does Nigeria go about recovering, the number of losses incurred in combating Boko Haram insurgency?
But again, the thing is, it takes two to tango. So what Nigeria would like to do is make an appeal to US and said, okay, hey, we've actually, through our own audit, we've uncovered this stuff. And here, for the damage that your aid, your goods, your aid has done to us, we are seeking recompense. You got to go in. American Constitution allows people to do or seek for compensation if you can prove there's a damage. Yeah. But those things have to be structured, it has to be strategic, and you have to actually have your national parliament to come to terms with that, but they have to be the one that say, this is how we have suffered as a result of your own action. We now want you to compensate us. But if you don't do it, they're not going to know. I live in America. I've been here 37-something years. I've participated in all kinds of American political government levels. I know how they think. If you are not in that room to listen to what they're saying, you will never understand America. And that's what I'm hoping that people like President Tinubu can go in and start looking at Nigerians who are actually knowledgeable about what is going on in America and begin to talk with them and say, hey, how can you work with me? Here is my agenda. And how can you help me advance it? African ambassadors, let me say this, African ambassadors to America have no clue how America works. They don't have relationship. They just come in here to attend the child naming ceremonies and village meetings, but none of them has actually engaged the American major media to talk about programs about their own country. So don't rely on your ambassadors, don't rely on your UN representative. Those people are clueless. They are here for their own family, and hopefully when their time is up, a lot of them don't come back. So what any African president that has substance and want to do something has to do is go away from that traditional route and begin to look at national people from their own country and say, hey guys, can you work with me? Here's what I want. And they will rally. Not the diaspora. Most of us for me, for instance, I have no plans to come back. But the thing is, I can work with any Nigerian leadership that wants to access American resources and guide them because I know it. I'm not making this up. I know it. You ask me anything about American government structure and I can explain it how it works and how you can access resources lying in wait. Don't beg. Don't come here looking like a little boy. They're not going to respond. Okay.
Well, thank you so much, AGK, for your time and also for speaking to us on this.
I told you are the best anchor woman in all of Nigerian TV. Thank you.
I appreciate it, sir. Thank you. Now, away from that, President Bola Tinubu currently in Addis Ababa, the Ethiopian capital, where he is participating in the 38th ordinary session of the Assembly of the African Union Heads of State and Government. Now, Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, disclosed this in a statement signed in the early hours of Friday. He said the president arrived in Ethiopia earlier in the day and was received at the airport by the Ethiopian Deputy Chief of Protocol, Eshetu Legesi, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tugar, and the Charge d'Affaires of the Nigerian Embassy in Ethiopia, Nasser Aminu. Now, this year's AU Summit, slated for February 14th to 18th, 2025, focuses on reparatory justice and racial healing among members. Now, we take you to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where African leaders, civil society organizations, and leaders are gathered for the 38th Extraordinary African Union Summit. The summit is crucial as delegates convene to discuss a critical theme that has sparked intense debate across the continent: reparatory justice and racial healing. Now, the African Union's theme of the year 2025 seeks to address the historical injustices faced by Africans and people of African descent. The summit will also provide a platform for African leaders to engage in constructive dialogue, explore solutions, and make far-reaching decisions on various political and socio-economic areas, ultimately advancing the welfare and quality of life for the African citizenry. Our news central correspondent, Bongani Siziba, is in Ethiopia. We cross over to her for more. Hello, Bongani. Thank you for joining us. Please go ahead and give us an update of this summit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, heads of states will be arriving tomorrow. That's where I can start with where there will be discussions. We know that there is war in DRC, there is war in Sudan, silencing of guns, and discussions on policies. These are some of the discussions that we are expecting that the heads of state, when they arrive here, they will touch up on. But also we know that there have been sessions that have been happening here since this 38 AU summit started on the 12th, and today is the 14th, and it's still going on. But I have key people here that have been attending this summit that we can talk to just to understand on key discussions that have been happening here. I have Dr. Adebayo. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us here at News Central TV. What are some of the key discussions that have been happening here?
Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful event so far here, and some of the key events that we've had here is discussions with the commissioners of agriculture, the commissioners of healthcare, the commissioners of economic development, and also the ACOSON, that's like the parliament of civil society organizations, has discussed what they had done in the past 4 years, their previous tenures, and also their plans, the blueprint they laid out for the new incoming commissioners. And it's very key to note that Africa is going through a very interesting period, and the topic of this particular AU on reparations and justice, it reflects across all the various commissioners, and we had the opportunity to engage with the commissioners on issues bordering on Africa in terms of insecurity, in terms of food sovereignty, which is currently under attack through the genetically modified crops, and we also had the opportunity to interrogate the framework and policies on vaccination, on education, on the identity of Africans, our identity, which is the beginning of the African Renaissance. And these are the conversations that we've been having, the side conversations, and we're expecting that when the head of states come, they begin to bring Africa together, because Africa at the time is at a point where, currently we have about 6 member states that are not attending this particular AU because it was suspended because of how they came into governance. And how can we unify silencing the guns? How can we unify Africa? How can we make the AU the bride of the member states? Because right now we find that most of the Western civil society organizations are courting the governments more than the AU. And we look at the head of states coming together to bridge this gap and build a more prosperous Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Adebayo. But let me just bring in the head of the Blue Economy Division here at the AU, just to tell us about what are their expectations, especially when the heads of state come tomorrow, looking at the Blue Value economy.
What we are expecting to head of state talking about blue economy is to really give an incentive for, let's say, people on the continent to know what is the opportunity, the main opportunity related to blue economy. We want them to also see how the private sector can be engaged, because when we are talking about blue economy, we are talking about economy. So it's not only to stay at the stage where we are now, because we have a blue economy strategy, but it's to move from, let's say, that framework to implementation in the fields. And to do that, we need really that country also push with the private sector to be involved in develop the main opportunity we have in blue economy. There is a lot of value chain, mostly, firstly in, let's say, traditional sector like fisheries, tourism, and shipping. But there is also a lot of opportunity for job creation in emerging sector like minerals, renewable energy, innovation and technology. So we expect that talking about blue economy more and more, we will not only inform the people of our continent, but also interest people who want to do business on this sector.
But how do people from the grassroots also benefit from blue economy?
In fact, sometimes we just forget that we are already doing blue economy, because there are people on coastal zone, or even in inland country, where people are doing blue economy, but they don't know that they are doing blue economy. So one of the things we are working on is to just highlight those opportunities and those potential on blue economy for them to know that what they are doing is part of blue economy, but they can enhance, they can upscale what they are doing. So that's one of the things we are working on. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Adebola. Those are some of the discussions that are happening here at the AU 38th Summit that is happening here in Addis Ababa. Also, he has been talking about how the grassroots can also benefit from the blue economy, and also discussions that have been happening around the repatriations, also African leaders coming in tomorrow. So we are expecting a lot to be happening here at the AU Summit. It's back to you in the studio.
Well, thank you so much, Bongani, for that update. And now we take a quick break. When we return, we'll tell you how Ekiti Magistrate Court dismisses alleged defamation suit against Dele Farotimi. Details of this and more after the break. Stay with us. Now, airline operators in Nigeria have called on the federal government to make available a single window source of loans with low interest rates to support their operations. Now, this was during a retreat in Abuja for operators, where they expressed worry at the non-availability of affordable sources of funding to expand their businesses, saying this puts them at a disadvantage when competing with their foreign counterparts.
The government should consider a single window source of loan for the aviation industry. We don't need grant. We don't want government to give us money free of charge. But aviation is one all over the world. We are competing with other operators who have access to loans at 2-3%. If you have to go to the bank today for commercial loan, it should not be anything less than 30%. The profit from aviation is very, very minimal. We can't even survive with that. If something is not done, it will mitigate, and obviously it will continue to suppress our opportunities to maximize the benefit of this beautiful policy of the President of the Federation, which is being championed by the Minister of Aviation.
Economists and members of organized private sector have begun commenting on the 2025 budget passed by the National Assembly on Thursday. Now, some of them commended the government for its bold stance on the budget, while others expressed reservations regarding how it will be funded. They acknowledged the budget as necessary for economic growth, but decried the cost of financing and how it posed the risk of heightened inflation. The budget was passed following the concurrence on the bill by the Senate and House of Representatives during their separate plenary. Nigeria's National Assembly has approved a record-breaking 54.9 trillion naira budget for the 2025 financial year. Now, this amount surpasses the initial proposal of 54.2 trillion naira by 700 billion naira. The budget allocated 3.6 trillion naira to statutory transfers, while debt service stands at 14.3 trillion naira. Recurrent expenditure is put at 13.6 trillion naira, while capital expenditure is 23.9 trillion naira. Now, President Bola Tinubu had requested the budget increase from 49.7 trillion naira to 54.2 trillion naira, citing additional revenue generated by key government agencies. Earlier, Gbolahan Olojede, a financial management consultant, shared his views on this.
The budget shows certain weaknesses within the system, and is an opportunity for us to, it is speaking to us that we need to look at certain distortions that have become obvious so that we can correct this distortion. So when you see the amount that is going for debt service ranking with the amount that is budgeted for capital expenditure is an indication that we need to do something on that nexus to be able to improve the revenues of the government. Contrary to some popular beliefs as well, I also think that the budget is still a very tiny amount, considering the size of the country and the population that we are told live in Nigeria. The education budget, that's what I've been using as my reference very recently. The education budget of South Africa for 2024-25 is an equivalent of about 25 trillion naira education budget. So, and that is a country of 60 million people. So the message there is that it should cause us to ask certain questions. For example, Nigeria is said to have regained its position as the largest economy in Africa. As the largest economy in Africa, how come our total budget is still 54 trillion naira? When a country with a smaller economy like South Africa with 60 million people is able to do about 3 or 4 times that number, it should cause us to ask certain fundamental questions.
Away from that, Nigeria's National Petroleum Company Limited says that it is partnering with the nation's northern film industry, also known as Kannywood, to help champion its campaign against pipeline vandalism. The NNPC Limited, while meeting with industry players from the industry in Abuja, says that pipeline vandalism has reached an all-time high, thus the need for a more pragmatic approach to tackling it. Amadine Uyi tells us more.
Kannywood, an informal name for the Hausa language cinema, is the film industry of northern Nigeria with its headquarters based in Kano State. With the reach of Kannywood penetrating across not just 19 states of Nigeria's northern region, but across several countries in Africa, its importance as a formidable partner in effective information dissemination cannot be overemphasized. With this in mind, Nigeria's National Petroleum Company Limited is extending a hand of fellowship to players in the industry to support its enlightenment campaign against oil theft and pipeline vandalism.
Kannywood plays a vital role in shaping the opinion of the people, especially in the northern part of our great country, Nigeria. The NNPC Limited belongs to all Nigerians, as you are aware, including members of the Kannywood. So it is crucial for the Kannywood community to have an interest in knowing how we run our businesses and operations. It is in this role as a commercial entity that NNPC Limited deems it necessary to hold this engagement so as to share ideas on how to move the nation's oil and gas industry forward.
Kannywood is one of the very veritable stakeholders in the North, the entertainment industry, and they have a lot of followership. So for whatever you do, Kannywood is one of the key things when you want to reach the northern, the 3 geopolitical zones in the North.
The NNPC Limited says challenges affecting oil infrastructure has reached an all-time high.
As of today, we discovered over 6,000 illegal connections on our major pipeline system. Each of these illegal connections is stealing crude oil.
The NNPC Limited says that it is hoping that this partnership can help extend its enlightenment campaign across the North, reaching millions of citizens under dangers of vandalizing the nation's oil assets. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
And now we move to the southwest region, where governors in that region of Nigeria on Thursday converged on Lagos State Governor's Office in Alausa Ikeja for an extensive deliberation on critical issues affecting the region. Our News Central's Omolola Ololade was there.
The governor of Lagos State and chairman of the Southwest Governors Forum, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, on Thursday played host to the governors of Ogun, Oyo, Osun, Ondo, and Ekiti State, respectively. The governors, after deliberating on key issues, condemned the threat posed by suspect terrorists in the region, while encouraging security synergy between the Nigeria Police Force and local security groups.
The forum agreed to appoint our special advisors on security in each state and to establish a joint surveillance monitoring team, which we believe will oversee and coordinate security efforts across the region. And as part of the resolution, the forum has committed to deploying advanced technology, including aerial surveillance systems that will enhance security operations. Additionally, the forum resolved to strengthen intelligence gathering by fostering a collaboration between our state security operatives, local security network, and of course the federal enforcement authorities.
The closed-door meeting also saw the governors commending the federal government for establishing the Southwest Development Commission and collectively agreed to situate the headquarters at Cocoa House in Ibadan. They also resolved to curb food price inflation, among others.
We believe also at the forum discussion will express concern with activities of unscrupulous middlemen who deliberately inflate food prices and commodities within the region. We therefore took a view and agreed to establish what we call a food inflation joint monitoring team, which we believe will foster interstate collaboration and it will mitigate food inflation. We also went further to jointly set individually logistics hub, as a means of ensuring, food security, food adequacy in each state, but also working collaboratively as a region together.
The 11-point communique after the meeting that lasted for almost 4 hours includes commendation of President Bola Tinubu in the sustained supply and distribution of petroleum products and the student loan scheme, as well as congratulating Lucky Ayedatiwa on his victory in the Ondo State governorship election held in November 16, 2024. In Lagos for News Central, I am Omolola Ololade.
Thank you, Amalola, for that report. Now, a magistrate court sitting in Ado-Ekiti, Ekiti State has struck out defamation charges filed by the police against rights activist Dele Farotimi at the instance of Afe Babalola. Now, the Nigerian police filed the charges after receiving Are Afe Babalola's petition accusing Farotimi of defaming him in December 2024. Chief Magistrate Adebayo Adeosun struck out the case following requests by police prosecutor Samson Osobu that nominal complaint Afe Babalola has agreed to discontinue the suit. Now, counsel to Dele Farotimi, Kembi Adejare, confirmed that they were served with a notice of discontinuation and the defense legal team has agreed. Barely 24 hours after power was restored to the University College Hospital, UCH in Ibadan, as assured by the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, students of the College of Medicine have staged a warning protest over sudden disconnection by IBEDC, which threw their halls of residence into darkness. Now, the students of Alexander Brown and Ayodele Falase halls of residence said that the disconnection was deliberate and different from the vow of the Minister of Power when he visited the UCH this Monday. Now, the University of Ibadan Students' Union condemned the action undertaken by the management of the University College Hospital in a statement co-signed by its president, Aweda, Bolaji, and General Secretary, Ogungbo, Bolapo, Japheth, urging the Minister of Power to intervene. However, Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company said it has fulfilled part by restoring the power to the UCH as tripartitely agreed by Minister of Power, UCH, and its agency within 48 days.
We are here to protect against the deliberate disconnection of our halls of residence.
I think it's rather sad that the students that protested for lights, the people that begged, that walked the streets, screaming and shouting that they should give us lights do not have light till today. The University College Hospital had light as at yesterday around 7 p.m. and ABH does not have an outer of light. Falase does not have lights, and we're the ones that protested on these streets last 2 weeks. It is not fair. It is unjust. We are students. We are fighting for basic rights, basic amenities. We don't have lights. We don't have water. We are struggling. And it is not fair for everybody to look at us and see us like this and they are not doing anything about it. It is not right. They should give us lights. That's all we're asking for. We are paying school fees. We pay everything. If we don't pay these fees, we can't write our exams.
Coming up.
We're going to
Senegal audit report shows financial irregularities under President Sall. This and more after the break. Now, in other parts of Africa, Senegal's government on Thursday announced it may take legal action against those responsible for mismanaging the country's public finances under former President Macky Sall. An audit report revealed serious breaches, including forgery, misappropriation of public funds, and money laundering. Now, the report also found discrepancies in public debt stock and shortcomings in bank deposits management. Justice Minister Usman Diani promised a full investigation, stating that former ministers and directors could be implicated. The International Monetary Fund has welcomed the audit report, citing Senegal's commitment to transparency. Now, the IMF has suspended its aid program in Senegal pending the validation of the audit report. The audit report's findings have sparked a heated response from Sall's former ruling party, which has denied any wrongdoing.
L'exploitation de ce document a permis de relever qu'en dehors des taux anormalement élevés de la dette, des manquements graves qui pourraient revêtir diverses qualifications pénales ont été constatés. Il est envisagé, dans le respect strict des principes directeurs de la procédure pénale, notamment la présomption d'innocence, le respect des droits de la défense, le respect du principe du contradictoire, la mise en œuvre diligente de toutes les mesures judiciaires nécessaires à l'élucidation de ces faits, l'identification complète.
South Africa is mourning the loss of 14 soldiers killed in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, President Cyril Ramaphosa offered his deepest sympathy at the memorial service held at Swartkops Air Force Base in Centurion, attended by members of the armed forces and families of the fallen soldiers. The soldiers were part of a Southern African Development Community peacekeeping mission deployed to stabilize the region. Their remains were transported to a United Nations base in Uganda before arriving in South Africa on Wednesday night. Ramaphosa described the deaths as a tragic and devastating loss and ordered national flags to be flown at half-mast.
Our nation is in mourning for these brave souls who lost their lives in defense of our brothers and sisters in the Eastern DRC. On behalf of the people of the Republic.
In other news from around the world, President Donald Trump has outlined plans to impose reciprocal tariffs on U.S. trading partners, escalating the trade war. Now, the new policy targets countries that charge high tariffs on American goods, with particular focus on the European Union, India, and Brazil. The tariffs will be tailored to each country's trade practices, with duties to be introduced as early as April. Although Trump acknowledged that this could raise domestic prices in the short term, he remains confident that the measures will ultimately reduce costs. Economists warn that the tariffs could increase inflation and slow economic growth, particularly as U.S. importers face higher prices. Now, critics argue that the move may violate World Trade Organization norms, raising concerns about broader global trade instability.
Trade, I have decided for purposes of fairness that I will charge a reciprocal tariff, meaning whatever countries charge the United States of America, we will charge them, no more, no less. In other words, they charge us a tax or tariff, and we charge them the exact same tax or tariff. Very simple. In addition, we will make a provision for subsidies provided by countries in order to take.
In business, South African Reserve Bank Governor Lesetja Nkanyago stated that the world is experiencing an age of populism which poses a significant threat to institutions like central banks. In his keynote address, he emphasized the need to understand the appeal of populist ideas and how to respond effectively. Nkanyago noted that populist leaders often undermine institutions, claiming that they represent elite interests, which can lead to economic chaos and corruption. He recalled the SARB's defense of its independence during the 2017 attack from the public protector, highlighting the importance of maintaining institutional integrity against populist challenges. Now, in the world of sports, Nigeria's Flying Eagles face a challenging group stage at the 2025 CAF Under-20 AFCON in Côte d'Ivoire after being drawn against Egypt, Morocco, and South Africa in Group B. The seven-time champions will prepare with a tour of Egypt, where they will play 2 friendlies against Junior Pharaohs on the 25th to 27th of February. Nigeria secured qualification by reaching the WAFU B final, defeating Ghana's Black Satellite. Hosts Côte d'Ivoire lead Group A, featuring Ghana, Tanzania, DR Congo, and a UNIFAC representative. Defending champions are in Group C with Zambia, Kenya, and Sierra Leone. The tournament runs from the 26th of April to 18th of May, with 13 teams competing for 4 spots at the FIFA Under-20 World Cup in Chile. Still talking sports, Chelsea manager Enzo Maresca has confirmed Philippe Jorgensen has replaced Robert Sanchez as the club's first-choice goalkeeper. Now, the 27-year-old Sanchez has struggled with costly errors this season, including a defeat to Manchester City. Jorgensen was preferred in the 2-1 win over West Ham, but Sanchez returned for the FA Cup loss to Brighton. Maresca emphasized stability in selection, confirming Jorgensen as his current number 1. Chelsea, who are 4th on the table with 43 points, will feature in an away game to 10th place Brighton. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.